When we talk about the lack of Black wealth in America, we usually talk about things that are abstract, things that include policy, education, or anything else that is just implemented in our society, but we don't really talk about the taking of our wealth. And when I mean the taking of, I mean things that we actually did build. So the narrative is usually that, we are just prevented from getting out of our issues and rising above, but we have done it several times. But every time we've done it, we have had someone take it from us, right? So I think it's important to talk about that because it really shows that we are very capable of getting ourselves out of poverty, but we are just forbidden basically to do it. And I want to talk about some specific things that have happened in history because let's just call it what it is. Like, to get where we're going, we got to know where we've been. So this is going to be a little bit of a more historical video, but I think it is important for us to know how things have been actually stripped from us. And I'm going to focus on 3 different ways this happened. So I'm going to give one literal example of it. I'm going to give an economic example of it, and then a political example of it. So I'm going to go through them. I have my notes per usual. So let's get into that. But first, I just want to ask you to please subscribe to the channel, give this video a like, and please share it. I'm really trying to spread the word on how we can get out of all of our issues and with Bitcoin. And I didn't even bring that up, but I'm going to talk about how Bitcoin can help the issue, of course. But yes, please share the video. All right. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and get into this. I'm going to just go ahead and get into the first one, which is the literal destruction. So this comes in the form of us having communities where we have our own things, our own banks, our own businesses. We have our educated people, our own doctors, lawyers, and people actually come and destroy them, mostly with fire and then other means of violence. Okay? A couple examples I have are the Tulsa Race Massacre. That's probably the most popular one that we know about. We have Rosewood. That one happened. And then the Atlanta Race Massacre. And basically hundreds of people are killed in these destructions, okay? Not only just the businesses, but our actual lives were taken for these things. So that is one of the first ways, is that there were actual literal ways. And I think this is the way we usually think about it. So like the Black Wall Street and those kinds of things. So that's what we usually think about. But I'm going to get into 2 other ones that are a little bit more discrete. And if not specifically discrete, the outcome is more discrete. Okay? The second one is our political destruction. The example I have for this is the Wilmington insurrection. So this was an instance where white society and white mobs and supremacists actually overthrew the government. So in this location, we actually got elected. So we were getting elected for actual roles in government. And this resurrection basically included killing Black officials or completely driving them out. Okay? So this pretty much shows how politics is also a way that we are destroyed. And a lot of people will say politics is not important. And let me just tell you, I have a lot of issues with politics, obviously, because I have an issue with the government and relying on the government. But it does shed light on how important politics is in our society. And I would argue that back then, it was more, well, let me not say that because that's being sticky if I say politics matter more than, but I think the extremity of the situations called for politics to be more involved. I'll say it that way. Okay, so that was the second one. I think that's all I had on that one. The other thing I did have for that one is that a newspaper was also destroyed. So that is actual education and spreading the word. And that the actual economic outcome of this and the way it really has affected us long term is that these politics really do shape what's going on and, of course, policy. So that area, once it was destroyed or once the political power of black people were taken, it pretty much shaped how the society there worked forever. And of course, it always trickles out to the rest of the country. Okay? And then the last one is a very more recent one. I think it's very important to talk about recent events. So in the 1990s, there was a huge push to have highways wedged in between black communities, and mostly successful ones. Okay? Have a few examples of some cities that affected. So Detroit, Miami, and New Orleans are the most prevalent ones. And basically what this does is it literally separates a black community. Not just destroys businesses because they can't afford to stay there or it's actual physical destruction, but also the community ties are broken as well. And I just want to, I know this is getting like very, very on the extreme side, but this is not something that is not implemented on purpose. If you've ever read the Willie Lynch book, you know that separating us is one of the biggest tactics used to keep us down. It's actually a known practice. So actually splitting up our communities is a direct problem for us, because it is destroying our community and our camaraderie and us coming together. And that has always been a very strong play. I could say I don't know if it's intentional when they wanted to do their highways that way, but they did it in black communities. So we got to call it what it is. A spade is a spade, right? So that was the third one. I think that that's the main point that I had for that one. So those are the 3 points, but I really want to talk about just our solutions to these things. And the main thing, and I say this in so many videos, but we just really have to start relying on ourselves. We just can't wait to be saved. We're not going to be saved. And it's getting worse. You would think it's getting better with time, but it's getting worse. The more people can rely on the narrative that things have changed and we're getting further and further away from things from the past like slavery and Jim Crow, the more they have that argument, the more there's no, well, at least there's no foresight or thinking that we need help. So we're not going to get it, and we have to come up with our own systems. Now, this is where Bitcoin comes in. None of these things, okay, are in our control. However, we can control our wealth. And you may be thinking, well, first of all, let's just talk about why. I say it in the videos, but I got to remember everybody doesn't see every video. So Bitcoin is very independent. There's no middleman. There's no government. There's no institutions. There's no banks involved. Okay, it's a form of wealth where once you own it, you are the sole person that has control over that money. No one can take it from you. No one can, seize it. No one can do anything. Okay, you have your keys. You own the Bitcoin. Nothing can be done to it. Now, my argument is, if enough of us have this, we don't have to rely on other people to give us wealth. We don't have to rely on it. And because we're getting an asset that appreciates a lot more than everything else, we are building our wealth rapidly. And if we can get in front of it and do it on a big scale, we can play a little bit of catch up, okay? Now you might be saying, well, that has nothing to do with anything, because if we build the wealth, okay, things will get destroyed. You just said that in the video. My argument for that is scale prevents problems. So if we have tons of these communities and we have that much cash and, well, not really cash, but currency that's a better currency, but it's gonna basically equate to cash too, because we still, in the end, we're gonna have to use cash. But if we have more of that than we did before, and we can account for a huge portion of that, it doesn't matter how much they try to destroy it. There will not be a possibility of that. And if you want to try to destroy a few different assets of it, fine. We have so many more people that have access to it and holding it that your little games aren't going to have as much effect. So it's really a thing of us needing to hold it collectively, okay? And that way it just really causes less damage, and it gives people less ammunition to be able to steal our wealth, okay? So that is my argument for Bitcoin being the solution to our problem. And I think I got everything that I wanted to get out. If you want to learn more about money, I will say this in a lot of videos. You should read the Bitcoin Standard, okay? It talks about money in general and how governments pretty much destroy money when it's becoming prevalent, and how it's either altered or stolen and the next thing has to come into play. And Bitcoin is one of the best ones. Not one of the best ones, the best one, okay? So definitely look into Bitcoin, okay, if you've never done that. I know it's a very sticky subject and people have their preconceived notions of what it is, but do the education and learn yourself. And please share this video with somebody who you think will benefit. All right, that's it for today. Have a great day. Keep stacking, and I will talk to you next time. Bye.